Welcome to Stepping Stones, John Smith, A Lawful Rebellion, interview by Caroline Stevens. Caroline, take it away.
Okay, welcome to Stepping Stones interview. I've got John Smith from the Common Law Courts on tonight. John is live from Skype in Scotland. John, welcome. You have been in the casino industry and you're going to talk through a little bit about your background and how you embarked on the common law jurisdiction. Over to you, John, and welcome.
Hello, good evening, Caroline, and hello to your viewers. I started off, like many people, in a 9-to-5 job, working within the casino industry. I did a 21-year career within the industry, managed to progress through all the different categories and the grades, up to the position of general manager. At that point, after a 21-year career, I actually fell foul because I was working for a couple of directors who were bypassing some of the legislation under which we operate. Long and short story was I effectively ended up as a whistleblower, and after which the directors decided to go in the attack mode. I ended up not working in the industry again, lost the career, finished me off. But when I turned to the gaming industry regulators at the time for protection, instead of assisting me, they actually covered things up to protect themselves. It involved large sums of money and it would have affected the government income by way of taxes. So instead of...
Just interrupt you, how would it have affected the government? Was that on the taxation side?
Yes, the government makes literally millions and millions of pounds through the industry. They had set up the industry in such a way that they let the public believe that they were actually protected, which was not the case because there was major flaws in the industry. And at the time when I was working, Tessa Jowell was working for the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. She was actually in charge of the gaming industry, and when they were aware of what was going on, instead of addressing it and highlighting the problem, they decided to cover up their negligence, and in so keeping the secret away from the public. If the public were aware of what was going on, it would have had a huge impact on the industry, and it would have affected them financially through loss of revenue and taxes. It was after that time, because this had happened, I then decided to go to the statutory system to try and seek justice or look for a lawful remedy. At the time, I would have been probably in the region of 40-year-old. Having lived all my life in a sort of cloud, been protected, I didn't realise that the statutory system is not actually set up to ensure the judicial system. It took a long lesson, but at the end of the day, I actually found out that instead of offering a lawful remedy, they basically protected the state and vested interests. I ended up bankrupt, I lost a career, broke up a family, I basically I was unemployable because of what had happened to my name and reputation, and as such, I'd walked away losing everything.
Do you mean, when you say losing everything, is that the house or?
Yes, everything. House, family, career, 21-year career, reputation, literally everything, financial savings, everything I'd lost.
And where were you living then at that point?
Well, at the time when I lost initially, I had to go and stay with my daughter, who managed to obtain a council house. So I stayed with her short term, and then I'd moved away and obviously relocated in a different city. And after the split from the family, I then obviously had a new partner relationship later on, and I've been staying with a partner ever since, but I've had to relocate cities. And the dispute is still ongoing, simply because although everything that I've said has been proven, regardless of what happened previously, the gaming industry would not put things right. They would not admit negligence, they didn't want the information getting out, and literally I've been made to suffer, and I still continue to do so because they wouldn't put it right.
John, can I interrupt you there? Because I've had sort of, I've had people who've gone through whistleblowing situations in the past, and when they've been working for an employer, they often go through some sort of tribunal system, like rounds of tribunals, internal systems, and they basically, the employer gleans information from the employee, retains it, and then it often is used against the employee in the next round of the tribunal. Is this the sort of thing that happened to you? So they were collating evidence back onto yourself?
Not necessarily. What actually happened, I'd been working for large PLCs within the industry for a number of years. The final PLC I was working for had announced to all the general managers that they were going to sell off the company. Now, at the time, we didn't know who was going to purchase the chain of casinos, so we weren't sure who it would be working for. At that time, I was offered the position to go and work for an independent company, a couple of casino directors. So I decided to take them up on a 5-year contract, a fixed-term contract, with various bonuses built in based on profitability. I'd actually been very, very successful, but throughout the first year, I knew there was problems ongoing. So for the last 3 or 4 months I worked there, I spoke to the directors, dealt with it. Unfortunately, as the general manager, my neck was on the line because I was ultimately in charge of the casino. And when it came to a standoff, they wouldn't deal with it. I then walked away. I'd actually left after about 13 months, but when I initially went to a tribunal, they argued in a technicality about the contract, and it was decided that I was actually 5 weeks short of taking him to a tribunal. So that was the first strike against me. I then decided to go to a statutory court to obtain a lawful remedy, and at the same time, being advised by a solicitor, we also submitted an objection to the casino licence renewal. When we'd done that, the directors then went on the attack, went for me and basically stated that I was malicious, vexatious, and basically that the allegations I brought forward had no basis. So without viewing any evidence, the licensing board decided to renew the licence, and without having any evidence against me, they decided to award expenses against me, breaching the rules and the setup, the chain of command. I took initially that decision to the Court of Session in Scotland, and the licensing board admitted that they were wrong, so they withdrew immediately. But instead of putting things right, the Court of Session referred the matter back to the council to deal with again. It took about 7-8 months to get back there, and when we got back to the hearing, they just ignored everything, refused to discuss it, confirmed that the decision was correct, and that was the end of it. Now, because of the attack by the directors, I'd ended up losing the £16,000-17,000 I had in savings. I'd run out of money. It was then when I applied for legal aid, and I was refused legal aid for various reasons. I don't know why. Probably because I was taking on the government agency or a licensing authority. I was refused there, and then shortly after I was made bankrupt. So for 3 years I couldn't do anything at all, and then after 3 years I decided to go back to the courts to try and obtain a lawful redress, because during the interim I'd actually received concrete evidence confirming that I was correct. Now, despite having this evidence, when I went to the court, they then decided that they wouldn't accept it, and they said that the issue was time barred. Regardless of the fact I'd been sequestrated and it affected my position to proceed, and that the bankruptcy a trustee wouldn't allow me to proceed.
So basically, can I just interrupt you, John? So let me just get this right. So you went to court, they didn't accept any of your evidence. You spent £60,000-70,000 of your savings that bankrupted you. You then couldn't do anything for 3 years. What is the legal aid situation like now in Scotland then? I mean, they've been clamping down, certainly in England, as to being entitlements on legal aid.
It's literally non-existent. I've actually applied for legal aid 4 or 5 different occasions, and bearing in mind that I had no income and I hadn't been working, I didn't actually claim any benefits. I'd lived off savings I had, and with family, I had support from family and friends as well. I didn't actually decide to claim any benefits. I tried to obviously obtain a lawful remedy and redress the situation through the courts. Now, I'd applied to the Legal Aid Board and asked on 5 separate occasions for assistance, and each time they turned me down, saying that it was not in the public interest to proceed.
Not in the public interest?
Yes. Now, bearing in mind, the initial problem stemmed from a licensed premises, which were a casino. It was company directors. It was fraudulent behaviour. It was a breach of the gaming laws. It involved about 60,000 casino members in illegal gaming and fraudulent councillors who'd made an unlawful decision. And all this wasn't in the public interest.
Right, so we've got councillors, corrupt councillors, we've got licensed premises, and we've got presumably judges involved. Yes. So the judiciary as well. So yes. So they're all literally into bed with each other.
And also the government as well. At the time I dealt with government ministers, and at the time it was previously known as the Gaming Board for Great Britain. It's now changed to the Gambling Commission. I was there at the overlap, and the chief gaming inspector from the Gaming Board had admitted that I was correct to an MSP, so I have the appropriate documentation from him confirming that what had happened to me should have never have happened, it should be overturned, and that I was correct. Now, having this information and returning to the local licensing authority, they had decided that they couldn't do anything, they weren't going to do anything, and if I wasn't happy, I had to go back to the Court of Session. So when I went back to the Court of Session in Scotland and submitted the relevant papers, the Lord who decided to view the paperwork decided that they wouldn't allow me to proceed. They said that there was no reason for doing so because I was no longer bankrupt. And regardless of what happened previously, you can only proceed if you obtain the services of an advocate. Obviously Queen's Counsel, which would have cost thousands of pounds to do, and I had no income, and they wouldn't give legal aid. So therefore I was deprived yet again through the judicial system.
So had you managed to find work by this time?
No. I hadn't done anything. I said I'd been living off obviously what I did have. I ended up bankrupt, but I'd been trying to address this, and it was then that I started to look into other alternative remedies for a lawful remedy, because I then found out for the first time in my life that when you had a problem, you didn't automatically go to the state. I believed at the time when there was a problem, it was regarding a legal issue, you would automatically turn to a solicitor, which is now the last thing that I would do, having discovered the information I do know. But having taken a couple of years to work out what the problem was, and then having a look at the system, then realised to use common law to obviously obtain a lawful remedy and deal with it that way.
So how did you, so the common law side, did you actually meet somebody who talked to you about common law, or did you take it upon yourself to investigate further?
I think what I'd done initially, because there had been ongoing problems with my case, and because it was sort of watertight, and basically there was no doubt whatsoever that I was wrong. When I then realised that they were ganging up on me, so to speak, for various reasons which may be unknown to myself, basically I was hung out to dry. Now, because I was correct, and because there was no valid reason for doing what they did, there had to be something there going on in the background. We started to look at the legal system, and we found out that the various judges within the system and the various level of courts and the authorities and councillors were all, for various reasons, failing to comply with the requirements. They were not doing the job, they were not following their own rules, they were basically breaking all the rules and doing whatever they wanted to do. Now, having learned about that and spoke to various people about that, I then started to examine the judicial system. It was that point I then started to educate myself, watch lots of people, watch lots of videos, find out as much as I could about common law, and then through speaking to various people that I'd known, we then started to put together something in relation to a common law defence. So we've obviously set up something to address that, and it seems to be working just now.
Right, so how many people are involved with you on this common law system, the common law courts?
86 million.
86 million?
No. Basically, the common law, when we speak about the common law court, it's not a company, it's not an entity, it's not a charity, it's literally a process that's available to the public. predominantly because I'm based in Great Britain, this is something that's available to everyone in the UK. Now, there's not a building, it's fixed, it's a common law court building. It's a process which people can use to obtain a lawful remedy under common law. So therefore, there was recently 5 court cases convened in England, down in Ascot, beside Glastonbury. Now, the 5 individuals who convened the court were actually English people from the area, and they put forward their cases which were convened, and it was dealt with by the public. So it has nothing to do with me, it's nothing to do with a building, it was a process that people can actually use.
You've got a website, haven't you? The Common Law
Yes.
Courts. We're going to display that on this show. So I noticed on Facebook a couple of days ago, I think there's going to be one, is there in Doncaster, Yorkshire, later this week? Would that be right?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of just now.
So people can just set up these. Do they go to your website and follow the process that's laid out on there?
I think what we've done just now is realistically, if we're speaking about lawful remedy, people cannot just go ahead and try to convene a court and set it up. Realistically, that has to be a lawful procedure. It has to be run correctly, and the decisions to validate court decisions, they must be reached in a reasonable, lawful process. So what we've actually done just now is said, look, the first common law court was convened by myself last year on the 11th of June.
That was the first one?
Yes, that was the first one. And now I reckon, realistically, it's probably the first of its kind for probably about 800 years.
Right, so can we just go over it? The one that you were involved in last year?
Yes.
You brought 12 people together to act as a jury.
Well, there was actually more than that. What we actually do is we make the information available through the public. We confirm that we're going to convene a court. Having done so, I require a lawful remedy. So there's a notice put up to inform the public, and then any members of the public could attend on the day in question. When they do so, a presentation is given to them to explain exactly what we're trying to do. And then we explain about the jury, we explain about the court officers, about the procedure, and then we ask for volunteers. So volunteers, a member of the public, are used to set up the court, to establish the court officers, so to speak, and then to get the jury. They're then sworn in, the relevant paperwork's completed, and then we just press on with the trial. The plaintiff then would present their statement of claim to the jury and present their case. Now, when we actually convened the first course, it was by way of a summary process, which basically is the same as the statutory system. It basically means that you have one individual placing their evidence before the jury and asking the court to issue an order. So that's it. If obviously the recent cases we had in Ascot, what we do there is it was a full court hearing, and the opposition were actually summoned to appear. So the court summonses are sent out to the opposition. The defendants are then given the right to respond, submit a written response. They also have the opportunity to meet up for a pre-trial conference to settle the dispute amicably before the hearing. Failing that, the parties concerned will then attend to the hearing, the actual court trial. The court will be convened, and then the case is put before the court and the jury.
John, can I just interrupt you there? So you called the defendants to the trial. What happens if they had turned round and said they weren't going to turn up?
Well, what's happened just now is with individuals, when you summon them, the court is, the papers are summoned to them. It's just like a normal court summons. The options are you can actually adjourn the court, and you can actually issue court officers to basically go and sort of arrest them and take them. They have the authority to take them to the jury. There's no point in doing this. The easiest way to deal with it is if the individuals have returned paperwork by way of a written defence, even if they didn't appear on the day in question, what you would actually do is you would have to select a member of the public to read out their defence. So a member of the public would basically be representing them. The paperwork would be read to the court, and then that and nothing more, because they're not there to answer. However, if the defendant doesn't submit a written defence, basically there's no defence to offer up. So the plaintiff puts forward the evidence, the paperwork, and the statement of claim to the jury. the presentation. If the jury have one or two questions just for clarification, they can then find out what they want to know. The jury then convene, and based on the information put before them, they then deliberate and pass a verdict.
So what sort of remedies can you actually mete out, if you like? What is it successful?
Yes, I would say yes. I would say yes just now because it is working. Just to clarify sort of the authenticity of the court and the statute, the paperwork that's issued. When we convened the first court last year, the process, the website was set up for one purpose and one purpose only. It was actually, once you convene a court, a lawful court, you have to make the information public. So therefore, the findings of the court hearing and all the paperwork has to be made available. And I thought, well, the easiest way to deal with that is to set up a website and leave it open source. So the website was set up to record information for the common law court and also to pass on information about common law. And that was it. So that is the only connection with the common law court. Now, when we've done that, various people had contacted me and said, look, can we use this process as well? So we explained, look, this process has nothing to do with an individual. It's something that anyone can use. And when people started realising that this was available, they then decided to use it themselves. So
John, my mind's working overtime at the minute because we're all complaining about treacherous MPs. Can we start putting them through this court system? Because I think there'd be a queue a mile long to serve on the jury.
Yes.
So
yes,
we'd have a court in each constituency for all the, each MP.
Yes.
Really? Oh, wow. Anybody watching this tonight, this is exciting, isn't it?
But bear in mind, the jury should be impartial.
Well, I mean, we want to get independent MPs into Parliament. In 2016, it's alleged that 164 of our MPs were actually on the sex offenders register. I mean, it doesn't really stack up that these people are telling us how to live our lives. Yeah. So, they've all got shares in Big Pharma. We were taken into the EEC without jurisdiction. That falls outside the common law. We were taken in illegally, weren't we, with the Foreign Commonwealth Papers. What can we do here?
What you've got to remember is the system, if it comes down to basic principles of common law, is every man or woman is held accountable for their actions. So whether it's an employee for the state that's maybe negligent or maybe criminal, when they're actually doing things which people are affecting people and people are actually suffering because of it, it's no longer acceptable then to pay them a huge pension and a huge payoff just to give them a pushy number somewhere. If someone stuffs up, they should be held accountable, especially when people are suffering. They shouldn't be paid, and if their actions are criminal, they should be sentenced accordingly. Now, I've dealt with people who have tackled the situation I've been dealing with, and I know that they've been committing crimes. Unfortunately, the state protects them. Now, for various reasons, people are protected within the state, and the last thing that a member of the public needs to know is that if something is happening and it's affecting themselves and their family, they're being attacked by the state, they need to know that these people will be held accountable. Unfortunately, within the statutory system, they're not held accountable. And on that point, within the judicial system, the thing which is annoying about it and frustrating is the system is set up. You do not have a lawful remedy through that. It's not set up for justice. But actually, the court system in this country are all companies. They're registered companies running for a profit. Now, the judges themselves, throughout the courts and in sheriffs in Scotland, they don't actually follow their own rules.
Right, so can I just go over that, John? Just each court is a private corporation.
Yes.
And they're all different corporations, or are they all part of the same big corporation?
They work under a main banner. Some of them
it's like McDonald's, they all have a franchise.
Yeah, some of them actually work this is under a larger banner, and some of them work sort of independently. Basically, from what I've been led to believe, through trying to find out up in Scotland, this is about the system up here. They like to think they're different here, and this is they try to separate the countries here. But basically, at the end of the day, in Great Britain, it's just a common law jurisdiction. If you want to claim common law, it's common law, and that's it, end of the story. The state actually dictate otherwise, and they say, no, this is what we're going to do. And they separate the people into different communities, they do what they want. Now, in relation to the legal system in Scotland, the judicial system, so shall we say, what I've found out is that it comes under a banner, 2 or 3 banners, but predominantly maybe the Scottish Court Service. Now, the Scottish Court Service is a company, but you couldn't actually find any trace of it in Companies House. Thought strange. Well, why is that? Well, first of all, they don't want the people to know that it's not there for justice, and they don't want people to know it's a company trading for profit. So they've actually hidden the fact. So researching it and trying to find out, after a bit of digging, I found out that the Scottish Court Service is in fact a registered company, but it's registered in New York in America. So it doesn't come up in Companies House in the UK.
Really? That's sneaky.
I also found out that for some reason the Scottish Parliament, because of the taxpayers' money that comes in, the same will be for the UK Parliament as well, but using Scotland because I'm based here, Scottish Parliament, they are recorded at Companies House, and basically everything in the account and the money that comes in is available through abbreviated accounts to the public. However, the Scottish Government is not a company in Companies House, but the Scottish Government is a registered company over in New York.
Scottish Government is a registered
company in New York.
New York?
Yes, in America.
Right.
So basically what you have is the Scottish Government is a registered company over in America, it's bound by the rules in America, and basically it stands as an American company, which the people don't know. Now, the UK Parliament is similar. I think at one point I was actually given information from people that one of the major companies is a credit company, basically ranks every single company in the world. It's Dun & Bradstreet. Now, if you go into Dun & Bradstreet and you can actually find out that they're all registered, whether it's things like the Conservative Party, Tory Party, Labour Party, it says governments, offices, they're all basically registered companies, and some are registered through individuals as well. Now, I don't have a problem with the system. I think the system is great. I think the way we live is great, it's fine, other than one thing. The people that run it are corrupt. I says, if the people were to run it properly under the principles of common law, we would have a great system. The people would be protected, there'd be no harm, loss and injury caused, and basically we can all live and just work together, that'd be fine. But because for unknown reasons, the individuals get themselves into positions, a clique of people, and for various reasons themselves, they decide that they're going to dictate how the country is run. Now again, without getting into issues regarding Brexit and things like that, it's not down to the people. Although the government are supposed to work for the people, the statutory system and the authorities work for the people, but you wouldn't actually think it, because they actually decide how we're going to run the company, how you operate, and the people, the members of the public, are actually just told what to do, and that's it. Now, I think it's back to front. It should be the other way around. That obviously the state works for the people, but because it doesn't seem to be that way just now, there's something far wrong with the system.
Well, I mean, I spoke to Dominic Grieve in April, and I said to him, if you understand what common law is about, surely the people are in charge. It's the people that have the powers. And he said, no, it's not. It's Parliament is sovereign, and the MPs can do what they want. So what do you think to that, John?
No, crap. At the end of the day, people, the country is the people. At the end of the day, that's it. As the Parliament, the government is only there because of the people. It's people that have the say, the people that have the authority. The people determine what goes on. The power in a country and the authority is the people. As they dictate what goes on.
So what shall we do then? How shall we plan a way forward? How we take back control of this country lawfully, peacefully, without injury? How do we do that?
I think at this moment in time, given the work certainly to the common law court, I think it's a great start, because what you're actually doing is you're addressing the system which is failing just now and which is in trouble. You're taking that and you're improving it and making sure that it's rectified and the solutions are solved, and the problems are solved. But what you do is you do so by holding individuals accountable. So if you have any issue, now again, it could be anything from NHS, it could be education, it could be the court system, it could be police, it could be anyone. Regardless of the position they're in, if people are there not doing what they should be doing, it's either negligent, in which case you remove them, or if it's even criminal, they should be held accountable. Now, if you start holding these people accountable for their actions personally, and they cannot hide behind the state, then things will change for the better. At this moment in time, this is people are in positions, they shouldn't be in the positions because first of all, they're incompetent. So I'm not saying that for everyone, because there may be lots of people in positions that are good, which is fine.
John, can I just interrupt you there? Because that's a really important point, actually. Because I went to a Veterans for Britain event last October, and I listened to people like Colonel Richard Kemp and Brigadier General Julian Thompson looking extremely worried about the European PESCO, the Permanent Structured Cooperation situation, where we were going to give all our armed forces to Brussels. Of course, this weekend we've just had the Armed Forces Day, and I was talking to all the different armed forces in town. They all had stalls out, and not one person knew about the PESCO, the Permanent Structured Cooperation. They would just simply say, "Oh, we work on manoeuvres with other countries." I said, no, this is more than that. I said, this is actually handing over our military to the Brussels jurisdiction. And they looked in disbelief. I'll be perfectly honest. And you see, when I went to the Veterans for Britain event, it was a case of the guys would say, well, the civil servants bring out a dusty document from a vault somewhere, and the MPs would sign it. I mean, that is negligence of the highest order. I mean, we need to be getting these MPs up front now into this common law court system, and we need to be trying them, every single one of them, because they're allowing all this to happen. We wrote to all the MPs. There's not one MP probably on PESCO that we didn't write to, and yet we just got a load of rubbish back from them, to be perfectly honest. They didn't seem that bothered.
Unfortunately, to be quite honest, I was guilty as the rest, because up to probably the age of about 40-year-old, I was oblivious to anything that was going on. I had a comfortable life, had a family, had a nice career, a nice job, a nice salary. It was fine. Everything was okay. It wasn't until I decided, obviously, I was actually forced into the position to protect myself, but became a whistleblower. Then when I turned around and said, look, I need assistance here, I then realised exactly what was going on. I hadn't realised how bad things were, and it was only then that I started to open my eyes. Now, learning very quickly through other people, I then found out how the system works, and also the fact that it's not set up to protect people. Now, you discuss things like the military situation just now. The majority of people in this country do not understand what's going on. Now, it's done that way because the government don't want it to be known what's going on. The people in government basically have their own agendas for whatever reason, and they decide to obviously concoct various deals, various contracts, various pieces of legislation to keep themselves happy, to keep themselves in a nice a cocoon away from everyone else, and basically pretty much sod the people. That's what it boils down to.
Well, John, of course you know that we've just had the Melanie Shaw remand hearing today, and we're going to be hopefully following up on this next week. You've got some presentations you're giving at the end of this month, is that right? Guildford and York?
Guildford on the 22nd of July in Guildford, and there's one coming up on the 4th August in York. I think there's 4 or 5 speakers there. The one in Guildford will just be on the common law court, so it'll just be myself there. But that's by way of a seminar to discuss what we're doing.
John, so how can they find it? How can the people who are watching tonight on Facebook especially find out about these 2 events? Are they shown on your website, or are they coming up on your website?
There's something just been put on the Facebook page, a link to the one in Guildford. The information will go into the common law court site within the next day or so, but the first one is actually advertised on the Facebook site now, and you can get that. So there's a link there, but we will set up something on the common law court site as well.
What is the Facebook page actually called? Is it Common Law Courts?
Law court, yeah, common law court.
Can anybody actually access it without having joined it? If they have to pass the test for the questions, is that the situation? Can anybody look at these dates?
But at the end of the day, it doesn't make any difference. It's available to everyone. It's public. As I said, it's the common law court. When people ask occasionally, they say, well, yes, we've heard about the common law court. Who is the common law court? Or they say, where is the common law court? There's not a building.
No. It can be anywhere, presumably.
And at the end of the day, the common law court is the people.
Yeah,
basically,
we the people.
If you're being attacked, you have a problem and there's a dispute and you wish to hold someone accountable, you convene a court yourself. And with the public, you set it back, so you go back to the basics. Now, when people go on about previous legislation from the state as well, you go back hundreds of years, even the Magna Carta. But realistically, as far as we can see from research, you need to go back probably about 100 years before the Magna Carta until such time that these courts were convened. Because after that, and the build-up to the Magna Carta, what happened is the state then got involved in the judicial system, whereby it may have been King John at the time, it would have been the lords, the barons, the sheriffs in the area. They actually took over the justice system by convening courts. Now, as soon as these people take over the system, it then becomes a statutory system. It's run by the government or the authorities. It's not run by the people.
Well, as you say, the Magna Carta 1215, I mean, that was 800 years ago. We had big celebrations. David Cameron was involved in those celebrations. He gave £1 million to celebrate. So we must take him up at his word and we must reinforce the Magna Carta. I mean, I've signed my Article 61 oath. Have you done yours, John?
Yes, I have, years ago.
Right, okay. I met a baron actually just before Christmas, and it was really interesting to hear why the barons, 25 barons, got together in 2001 to petition the Queen and about the closer integration with the EU. They were ignored at the time. Should they have petitioned somebody else other than the Queen? Should they have petitioned her office, for example? Did they do it the right way? What happened there? Do you know?
The system as it stands just now, and based on the Magna Carta, there was a process in place to deal with it. Unfortunately, that only works if all the parties comply. Unfortunately, it's a bit one-sided because the Queen and the state would not accept what was going on. They're quite happy for that and quite happy to cover up. So therefore, you have a problem. Unfortunately, he says, if you then come out of that and stop to think about it and say, well, hold on, there's a problem here, we need to address it. You address it through the common law courts with the people.
Woohoo! So, John, just to wrap this up, we've given people the dates. They can find out your Facebook page. You've also got the website, which we've been showing on the bottom of our screen.
Yep.
And we would like to invite you back on next time, very shortly. And we want to follow up on the Melanie Shaw case. And no doubt we're going to talk about your future common law courts and what success you're having. So, John, is there anything else you'd like to say to the viewers before we say goodbye?
No, I just thank you for joining. And remember, this is that while we're discussing common law courts, it's not my common law court. It's the people's common law courts. This is the common law courts are used for the people, and it's basically down to them to convene their own courts. Providing they follow the process, it'll be okay. Okay.
Well, thank you, John. And, you know, we did say in Vote Leave, power back to the people. We will take back control. So thank you, John. And thanks to everybody listening. We, the people, will take back control. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.